It's not every day that bugs interfere with my daily life beyond just a minor annoyance. Heck, I think they're kinda cool most of the time, save for wasps, because f that. But today, I'm making an exception. That's right, I'm officially declaring war on all bug-type Pokemon. All the insects in the Pokemon regions will feel the tallest wrath. Why, you may ask? The answer, Pokemon Crown. Pokemon Crown is a very, very original ROM hack in the world of Pokemon modding. It's probably the most original concept for a story or world I've seen in Pokemon to date, right next to Legends Arceus, which for all sakes and purposes has every right to spawn its own sub-series, and heck, I'd go as far as to say the same for this one. It's honestly become one of my favorite ROM hacks as of late, so I want to talk about what makes this game as cool as possible as much as I can, before I dive into the aforementioned bug-type incident, seeing as I intend for this video to be a light review of the game's latest beta. I'm only saying this because it's been a while since I've done YouTube, but even I know some of us Zoomers have such unironic fruit fly level attention spans that if I don't talk about every part of the title immediately, they'll click away instantly. So for now, I'm just gonna put this jiffle rotating sandwich in the corner, and I think that'll keep them occupied in the meantime. Alright, now that I've checked every prerequisite to make this a fully functioning YouTube video, Pokemon Crown. As I mentioned before, this game is a ROM hack, with the original being FireRed, but so much here has been changed that you can hardly tell. Right off the bat, it's pretty obvious that we're not in modern Japan anymore. Instead, opting for a setting much closer to what you'd actually imagine a European region like Galar would be like. And yes, that's 100% to say that all Europeans are currently living in feudal Great Britain. The art, music, and world building are definitely the game's strongest points by far. I almost want to say they remind me of a traditional fantasy JRPG, but here they're actually a lot better than most I've seen for the GBA. Pokemon Crown's visual identity is really strong, leaning into a lot of the darker greens and reds of the environment, which is pretty rare in any Pokemon game, which helps it stand out a lot more to glance, along with tons of dark fantasy elements for the buildings with lots of little details like stone, moss, and land roots everywhere you look. There's also just these little Pidgeys sitting on the rooftop and NPC Pokemon out everywhere in the wild. It's so freaking cool. It just kind of made me realize how relatively empty the larger worlds of the newer mainline games feel in comparison. Like, in the more recent games, I swear you'd be stuck trying to find some kind of lore or flavor text, let alone any form of world building for the town that you just arrived at 6 badges into the game. Like, you'll still have NPCs saying generic shit like, "Did you know potions heal Pokemon? I love potions! Yippee!" But here, it feels like every single corner of this game has some sort of intent with detail, like Pokemon or really any RPG should. Whether it be the kinds of characters you'll find in a given area, the little bits of decorations and crests around the houses, or this corner I found where you can climb up this ladder, jump across some bookshelves, and steal this wizard's spoon for some reason. The UI's also been changed just a bit. It's got a more modern feel to it, with additional space for character names above text boxes, which is a nice touch that helps to make interactions more memorable. And for the rest of the designs and the menus and the battle interface, it's almost kind of like a black and white inspired feel, especially with the character portraits. Seriously, the art's kind of peak here. I was actually surprised the game ran full speed on my 3DS, considering it's probably the second best thing we've got to running the game on a real GBA. Okay, the art is cool and all, but pixels do f off for my ears, which is why I was pleasantly surprised to figure out that there's a flaw. Dude! That dude just flew in my recording. I just want to let you know, I'm literally taking 30 minutes of setup to record a clip that isn't even 30 seconds long. Why do I do this? Anyways, look, the game's music is good, okay? And no, that wasn't the bug-type incident. They absolutely nailed the soundtrack. When it came to cooking up the music for the Gilda region, it's completely original, while still somehow retaining a lot of the compositional style of Goichi Nose's work from the Generation 3 games, especially in some of the cozier town themes with light and memorable melody-focused pieces for areas like the starter town, Seaside City. There's some heavy Gen 4 and 5 vibes in the directions of some other songs here too, like in Villaintum Hamlet or in Seaside Outskirts, with its use of cascading sub-melodies and little bits of texture every so often, with the marimba jumping in to give the game's first route just a bit of extra tension. Almost like it's telling you, even though this is an adventure, there's still some lurking in the wild grass, so unless you want your kneecaps taken by a Weedle, you better be on your feet. And lastly, the battle themes. There's so much here that sounds completely unique from anything I've heard in a mainline Pokemon game. The main battle theme has a mix of the strong fanfare you'd hear from one in Final Fantasy or Fire Emblem. Heck, there's maybe even a bit of Pokemon Rangers in there too. But also set to that same high energy percussion emblematic of Generation 4 Pokemon onwards. It does a great job at establishing the tone of the game's normal battles for a region closer in design to traditional JRPGs. The compositions in the game are split between Pascaru, Roland Berlin, a reliable chair, and a Furret. That's right, the team got a real FireRed, silly guy numero uno, to cook some bangers for them as well. Now, what kind of dark arts they had to use to summon an actual living ferret to work on the game's soundtrack is beyond me, but I'm getting off track. There's not a single bad or even mid-song in the entire playlist, and I think every one of these composers definitely gets their time and place to shine across what's currently playable at the moment. Most of it's already on YouTube and mastered to be in a higher quality than what's even possible in the GBA, so even if you never play Pokémon Crown itself, at least give the game's soundtrack a listen when you can. It's seriously that good. Now, it's no secret that I'm a guy that likes to focus a lot on the aesthetic side of things, the style that games carry with them. I mean, I have spent the last talking about just the art and soundtrack alone, but not even Pokémon Crown can escape from the other half. Save for only a few very rare exceptions, everything with tons of style needs at least a little bit of substance along with it. Which, of course, brings me to the game part of this thing. And if I've got to be honest, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Right from the beginning, we're introduced to Pokémon Crown's more unique take on the typical Pokémon gameplay loop. As soon as we hop off the ship from the distant Needless region, we're given a quest to meet with Gilder's lead Pokémon scholar, Professor Dogwood, and obtain our first Pokémon to compete in the Crown League. Once we head to the guild and sign up as an adventurer, the quest is complete, and we're then given the choice of Trico, Totodile, or Charmander as our starter Pokemon. The quest system is Pokemon Crown's main form of progression. While occasionally there will be more specific requirements for different quest lines, generally completing quests is the main way for you to earn golden XP throughout the game, the two most important resources you can come by. This is because Pokémon Crown is actually a semi-open world, with multiple different options for progression alongside the main gym and story-related quest lines. So it's actually really great for giving the player different options for how they want to play the game and experience the world of Gilder. The only problem I have with it though is the execution. It's, not that great. Specifically, the balancing of XP and gold in the game is just kind of all over the place at times. In addition to the standard level of Pokemon, there's also a level for you as a player, which puts a hard cap on the levels of your entire team. They literally won't gain any experience if they're already at your trainer level. In theory, this would be a pretty good idea. It's a way to stop grinding and make the challenge of the game's new battle system stay consistent throughout the playthrough, which I can totally get behind. But it falls flat and feels more frustrating than not because the selection of Pokemon you're able to catch at any given time feels incredibly limited to what the AI teams are set to use in quests and gym battles, which is admittedly more of a shortcoming of the new battle system. But it's only made worse by the fact that the synergies you'll have access to will usually just be objectively weaker than your opponents in a game where team comp literally means more than anything else. And if you're already at a disadvantage when it comes to having a less complete or optimized set of synergies, it definitely doesn't help being constantly underleveled in addition to it. But because there's so few options for building a team that doesn't suck complete ass early on, the level of your Pokemon is ironically the deciding factor in most early fights rather than strategy, which the battle system incentivizes. Which, even more ironically, means that you'll be running around looking to grind all the smaller quests just to get your level high enough to even begin to challenge the main story. Which, I mean, sure, tons of RPGs with this gameplay loop exist, but it doesn't make it fun or engaging, especially for one that's literally designed with an open world in mind. At a certain point, when I got stuck with my team comp, it just felt like my only option was to take on any random quest I could find, just so I could pass a bullshit wall where an NPC had an objectively better synergy in higher level Pokemon, rather than being able to develop and mix around my team comp like I should be able to. I know it might seem like I'm completely blasting this game for taking a different approach to progression, but in all honesty, the weak points are really only a minor annoyance at worst most of the time. I just feel like it's an area of the game with some room for improvement alongside the new battle system. Speaking of which, if you have absolutely no idea what you're watching right now, congratulations, you've passed Virginity Skill Check number 1. Because for those of us who aren't so lucky, this new battle system fits perfectly into a pretty recent sub-meta genre game mode board game update thing known as Auto Chess, otherwise known as Chess 2, the League of Legends update. For those of you fortunate enough to have never experienced League of Legends, Teamfight Tactics, or Dota 2 in any capacity, Auto Chess is a weird kind of hybrid of a few different Warcraft 3 mods, where similar to actual chess, the general gameplay loop, no matter what flavor you play it in, is that you get a board and some units, and there's a big grid where those units do Mortal Kombat. But where the auto comes in is that they just sort of do their own thing, and whoever has the better pieces wins by default. But it gets a little more complex when you realize that units get certain types that form synergies with other types, that give your units bonus effects, depending on how many of that particular synergy you have on the board, what pieces they're adjacent to, where the enemy is, and that's not even to mention unique abilities for each unit, item combinations, round economy, the copious amounts of microtransactions. So yeah, contrary to the name, the strategy gets kinda deep. And as poetic as it could be, one of the very mods Auto Chess as a format was based on was Pokemon Defense. It literally came full circle. But as much as I love the idea of Pokemon Auto Chess, heck, a full JRPG where the main battle system is an implementation of the format, there's a few problems I have with the current iteration that I feel like need to be addressed in future updates of the game. Before anything else though, I just gotta mention that having battles take place in this format is really freaking clever when you consider the time period and setting of the game. It's basically like a look at what Pokemon battles could have started out like before society developed rules and a format for them, let alone moves. You thought you actually got to tell your Pokemon what to do? Let's keep in mind that this is the same region where using Pokemon to settle disputes is literally a single step short of using actual fucking weapons in gladiatorial combat. I think at this point, teaching your Froakie that it's supposed to shoot water when you yell water gun should be the least of your concerns. These people just don't have time for that. They're too busy living that medieval isekai lifestyle, conquering kingdoms, casting spells, getting sold into slave. Okay, not that one. That one's bad. So what better way to settle your disputes than just throwing hordes of monsters at each other like the good old days, and not dying of famine first? That's a pretty good strategy too. So really, what could possibly go wrong? Everything! The main difference here is how auto chess style games normally work, and how it's done in Pokemon Crown is the pacing, which feels really, really off to me. Auto chess is designed to take place in the span of short bursts. You get a battle that takes place for maybe 5 seconds at max, 10 to 15 seconds for a longer round, and then you win or lose and start preparing your team for the next round. It feels like the balance of iterating on the strategy in your team comp in a meaningful way and watching the effect of that strategy play out is 50-50. You get a near instant feedback on what's working and what's not, what to change, and you're able to do it right away, which makes the games have a really good flow to them. It's like taking turns playing actual chess. The pacing in Pokemon Crown, on the other hand, look, I'm gonna be honest, maybe I didn't notice it at first because I originally played through the game spread out across a 13-hour flight to Japan. I had time to kill, but going back for a repeat playthrough was abysmal! In parts of this video, you'll probably have seen battles playing out in hyperspeed. That's not built into the game, that's me pressing the fast forward button on my emulator to skip through and actually see whether or not I won the damn thing. The main issue I have with the battles in Pokemon Crown is how long it takes to do anything in regards to the battles. You want to make a change to your team because of one specific quest battle, better go out and catch 3 completely different Pokemon with the right synergy, then grind out to be a level so they won't get rolled, play the quest battle again, and oops, it didn't work, there goes 15 minutes of sitting and watching nothing happen on my screen. Rinse and repeat. I'm not saying the entire game is like this, but when you hit a wall, and trust me, there are multiple walls spread throughout what's supposed to be the first area of the game, the slog to actually strategize and play around it is miserable. By the way, this is the bug type incident. For some reason, the bosses of Pokemon Crown's first area love stacking bug-type Pokemon, which also happen to be one of the most unbalanced synergies you can get this early on, let alone in the entire game. Let's run through all the effects a full bug team gets just by existing. Every 5 attacks they gain 10 agility, then they gain 10 bonus damage for units attacking the same target, and finally KOs increase the agility of every unit on their team by 20%. If you don't realize how insane this is, it basically means that if you lose a single Pokemon to a bug-type team, the rest of your team gets 20% slower in comparison to the enemy, multiplied by every Pokemon you lose onwards, and that's not even taking into account the other bullshit effects and special attacks these things get. Combined with the unique battle style of gym leaders, and by that I mean they get to use 4 teams of full health Pokemon without giving you the chance to heal, and by the last battle it just takes a single unit. Maybe your tank got a little too low, and as soon as it goes down, it's back to square one. I can't tell you how many tries this battle took me, only for the winning attempt to be as simple as switching 2 members of my team to make sure the first Pokemon went down just slightly later. It was seriously that close. I feel like this loop would have been a lot more bearable if the wild battles in this game just played out a little faster. I'm sitting and watching 2 sprites doing nothing, and hoping the enemy's health bar drains before mine does. It should not take this long to see whether or not I won the battle, only to have a single Pokemon taken out, and then because of everyone's favorite bug-type special move, my entire team gets wiped. Speed aside, look, I get it. Working with Gen 3's graphics is difficult, but part of the draw of auto chess type games is watching the battles play out. There's effects, animations, just things happening on the screen. Even though working with the GBA's limitations means that certain things just aren't possible, I still think that there's room for creative alternatives. Maybe just an occasional cut-in animation, giving Pokemon more variety in how their auto attacks look. Just anything to make the battles feel more worth watching. There's also a notable lack of interactivity during the battles, which is immediately apparent to anybody who's played another game in the genre. This one varies based on your reflective flavor of auto chess, but take for example Teamfight Tactics. During battles against creeps which spawn in between player rounds, there's a chance for items to drop on the battlefield. You move your guy to the item and pick it up. It's super simple, but even that little bit of interactivity helps to break the monotony between battles, and Pokemon Crown came so close to providing a really unique take on this, in the same battle which happens to be the second major bug type wall in the game, the Ariados boss fight. This one, in all respect, feels a lot more fair, and in boss fights in particular, there's a mechanic where you can actually give your Pokemon specific attack instructions for positioning and targets. Like, why couldn't this have made its way into the main battle system? The first time I encountered it, I was like, hey yo, this is a really cool way to unlock this mechanic, which is definitely gonna be really useful for whatever's up next, only for it to just never be used again in the entire game. Like, why? You were so close. This should just straight up be an option in every battle. If a single positioning mistake is all it takes to send you back 10 minutes, you might as well be able to correct it in the middle once you've noticed it so you can actually avoid it instead of being forced to reset. For as much as I've complained, and I've complained a lot so far, there are some things I really do like about Pokemon Crown's gameplay though. The quests and world building are the game's strongest suit by far. I loved reading all the different characters' backstories, finding out different subplots that tied into each other. Like, there's a point where you find out the Pokemon Church is not so secretly evil, then you can go on an optional side quest to poison a supply of potions for them, and to take another equally morally questionable side quest to frame the suppliers of said line of potions, only to have the church come in and save the suppliers by taking over their business. After which, returning to the first town, it now reveals that you're a wanted criminal, and all the guards there will just try to fight you on sight. It's actually genius. In my second playthrough, I also discovered this little lab in the middle of nowhere, and it turns out the witch inside can use some dark magic to combine the power of duplicate Pokemon, which is another carryover from Auto Chess. It's such a cool way to implement that, and I honestly wish I had found it sooner. The end of the hack at its current stage even has a bit of post-game content. After the first rival battle, who's a stuck-up prince that literally throws his Froakie from the professor in the trash, which you can also 100% save by the way, you'll then unlock the Colosseum, which lets you take place in online battles, which yes, is fully built into the ROM itself, and like even has a dedicated client in matchmaking? Sign me the f*** up. I love selling my soul for ELO, you bet I'm doing it in medieval Pokemon too. Pokemon Crown is by far one of the most impressive ROM hacks I've played in general, with an absurd amount of content and an insanely refined aesthetic. No matter my personal gripes with the battle system's implementation or the slight balancing issues the game faces early on, it's still really easy for me to recommend, even in early beta form. I'm honestly really excited to see the game continue to take form. It's such a high quality that it rivals that of actual Pokemon spin-offs like the Ranger series in terms of feeling official, and the fact that it runs with seemingly zero issues on actual hardware is another bonus for 3DS homebrew enjoyers like ya boy. Definitely head to the ROM Hack's official page in the description to give it a shot for yourselves and support the devs who made it. Afterwards, let me know. Did you feel the same way I did about the battle system? Are there any cool things I might have missed? I'll be in the comments to see what you all have to say. And with that being said, I just found out what a Chimera Ant is and I take it back. They were definitely onto something with that bug type propaganda.